Hello, YouTube. You know, oh. Anyhow, wanted to show you my haircut. I trimmed the sides. If you saw the live stream earlier, then you saw me do a live haircut using scissors and the shaver for the first time on myself. So that was interesting. Anyhow, I have to go pick up some paint and maybe some shampoo and some other stuff. Not shampoo, but body wash. Or I might just go ahead and start using this stuff. So I think I'll use a body wash. But anyhow, I wanted to do a quick video to answer some questions that some viewers had posed in some of the other live streams and some other videos and stuff. One of them I thought was worth answering because it might be critical to some people, like right now with the situation on what's happening and people having to move into a van or an RV. Sorry about that burp. But I wanted to fill you in on what's going on. Hey, Kira, good to see you on here. Sorry, I can't really read your comments and stuff. I am driving. But a viewer had posed a question because they had asked about, me being divorced, paying child support and visitation and everything else. I removed a lot of those videos because the trolls and haters, and it's a long story. But basically, I pay child support and have visitation and stuff. They're not even supposed to be tied in together. Even if you didn't pay child support, you're still supposed to be able to visit your kids. But a lot of, I won't get into it because then you get all these people who get angry and say whatever. But long story short, okay, child support and visitation are not supposed to be tied in together. But a lot of the parents who have custodial custody of the kids will refuse visitation, even if child support is paid. But I don't want to get into a rant, so I'm just going to explain to you how that was handled. Essentially, when I was living in the van, which I am now not really living in the van, I'm living in the RV now, as of now, because I have secured parking for the next couple months, pending no hurricane evacuation. If we have a hurricane evacuation, we could have a crisis. But for now, as long as the hurricanes don't hit this area, or they don't evacuate, I should be okay. But, we have that whole COVID thing going on. But anyhow, when I was living in the van, how visitation was handled was this. The van would not be able to accommodate the two kids and me. It's a minivan, and even if it was bigger, it would be really tight. I wouldn't really want my kids spending the night with me in the van. Okay, it's just too small. Now, for when I had the kids, the van would be converted into pretty much like this mode that you see right now with the seats in the back. So it's like a regular minivan. It can carry 3 or 4 passengers. So it can carry 4 to 5 people in the van when it's functioning in van mode, which you can see right now. It looks like a van in the back, other than the storage back there. It just takes like 1 minute to flip it over, and I got a little bed. Okay. But the bed is designed for 2 adults. And I suppose an adult and a kid, and another kid could sleep going this way if you had to. But I wouldn't do it. And what I did for visitation when I had my kids, just so you're aware, if you're new to the channel, I didn't have them live with me in the van. That would not be practical and, probably not too safe. So when I had the kids, I took them out on day trips. And then at night, I would drop them back off to their mom, or, a meeting spot where their mom would pick them up or whatever. So visitation would occur during the day. Like I would pick them up early in the morning, and then I'd drop them off that evening. And then I'd go and pick them up the next day. That's why you saw me for the whole weekend. It looked like I had the kids, but they would actually spend the night at their mom's, and then I'd pick them up again the next morning. So that's how that was mostly handled. Now, once I acquired the RV, and the RV became habitable. I was able to get the bedroom and everything sort of working, and the kids could spend the night in the RV. Okay, and we did that a couple times on the road. We just treated it like a camping trip. They would just go camping for the weekend with me, and occasionally I would actually get a spot at a campground with the RV where we could hook up and had electricity, had running water, had sewer. So at the house, the mobile house. And even, now, because it has solar panels and, a huge battery bank, 500 amp hours plus, and over 1,000 watts of electrical. I have enough to run electricity off grid. So the house, or the RV actually, is a house off grid. The only thing it'd be missing is running water. Well, it has running water because it carries like 50 gallons or more. So it's a house. So it's better than a house because it's a mobile house. Now, what I did for the kids when they wanted to spend the night when I was living in the van, we would take road trips. So typically the kids would come and I'd get them and we'd go hang out in Orlando, or we would go to St. Augustine, sometimes South Florida. We would hang out there. And what I did was I just book a hotel room for 1 or 2 nights. Typically one night, sometimes 2, depending. Like when we went to St. Augustine, I think I had them for 2 nights. But I would book a hotel online and reserve the weekend and plan for all that. And that's how I did overnights. But for visitation, I generally would drop them off, pick them up in the morning, drop them off that evening, pick them up the next day. I slept in the van. I lived in the van, through all that time. But the kids, for them, when they got it, it was like this mode. It was like, they could watch TV, play video games. Now, what we did to save money was we would sometimes cook food because, even in this mode, the rice cooker and stuff is still working. So we would cook rice and buy rotisserie chicken from Walmart or whatever. So $5, I could feed the kids for the whole day. And, that made it so that I could save money for, those of you who are like on Facebook and stuff. You'll see some of the stuff, some of the stuff I do with my kids. Like I take them to amusement parks and things like that. That people say, how are you able to afford all this stuff when you don't have a house? I can afford it because my cost of living in a van is just the cost of gasoline. And how much you use just depends on how much you drive. I would drive to work back and forth, and I didn't drive that far. I parked near work, wherever it was, because a lot of the time I was working in a temp agency. So depending on where I was assigned and what kind of job it was, I typically found a spot to camp there. And when I was working the knife gig, I went out of town. And how I got money out of that, even though the knife, Hessler knives, remember that whole incident with the knife hold-off, the Mexican standoff with the knife and all that? They would kind of ripping off the salesman. You travel like across the whole state, And what I did was I told them, I'll take mileage. So they had to base the mileage based upon my driver's license house, which, we have somebody who designates the house. That's where we get all our mail, all official stuff. That's kind of how you handle having an address when you don't have a real address. You have an address that you live at where everything is sent there, and then your family member or friend holds it for you, and then you come by and you pick it up. And so like do I tell people I live there? I tell them it's my mailing address, my residential mailing address, but I don't really live there. Like with the VA and stuff, I let them know the situation. So they know they can send packages and stuff there. For all practical purposes, it's treated like I live there. But the logistical part of it really is that I'm living in a van. I'm homeless, okay, or was homeless. Even now, I'm sort of still homeless. I guess you're homeless if you don't really have a house. Even if you have a house that's on wheels, they still consider you homeless, which to me is ridiculous because the RV is a home. But that's a whole nother story, and you're going to see how we kind of adapt because the situation has changed dramatically, and it continues to change because the kids are growing up, and I'm no longer having to be at the mercy of the system. Now, I chose the path that I chose, and those of you who watched it from the beginning, you kind of know why I did what I did, even though it meant suffering. So I did it. And now we're at the end, or near the end of it. So hopefully within 6 months, it's going to shift. It's not truly the end, but I'm declaring it the end because it's close enough. Well, as we've been saying all along, good enough. That's the whole philosophy that I've always had, even before the RV, was that things just need to be good enough. And I know some people think that if you just do things good enough, that's half-assed. Well, it depends on the type of person you are. For me, when I do good enough, a lot of people look at it and say, wow. It's more than what most people could do. But for me, it's good enough because it needs to function. It needs to, be able to do what it needs to do within the confines of what you have, whether it be money, time, skill set. You have to be able to do what you can handle, and basically, you put it point blank. Let's say you had to jump out of an airplane and you had to make your own parachute. And you're just like you are right now, and you're not like a parachute expert. You don't know how to make a parachute. You don't know how to do all this stuff. What do? Well, you hopefully do it good enough. You're probably not gonna make a parachute like the professional ones that cost hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars. I don't know how much they cost, but probably hundreds if not thousands for a professional parachute. But I kind of have a rough idea of how a parachute works. And if I had to jump out of an airplane and that's all I have, that's all I have. I'm not going to just jump out without a parachute. I'm going to try to make a parachute to the best, I guess, to the best of my abilities. Based on what I know about air resistance and how parachutes work and whatnot. That's how I would make my parachute, and cross my fingers and say, I hope it's good enough. Because a lot of times in life, there really is no guarantee on anything. Some people want I think we all do, because it has to do with fear and stability. We all want to know what's going to happen next. But the fact is, life is like a mystery. You really don't know what's going to happen next. Like, a lot of people assumed a lot of things about their life, but coronavirus woke them up. Okay, because when coronavirus hit and how fast it can impact you, you think everything's normal and fine unless you get infected, and it turns out that you actually are one of those people who is not resistant. You're one of those people who has some kind of underlying issue that the virus loves. You could be dead in 10 days. You went from absolutely healthy and knowing everything about what you were going to do next to now you're dead in 10 days. If you've been following the news and stuff, there have been little kids who've lost both parents within 2 or 3 weeks of each other because they had coronavirus. So it certainly changes perspectives for a lot of people, but for me, it's always been kind of like that, in the sense that I never really knew what was going to happen next. That was 10 years ago when I went through that really nasty divorce, and my whole life went topsy-turvy. I know a lot of people look at me right now. If all you saw right now is you see this toothless guy who apparently lives in a van, you think I'm just a homeless dude and stuff. And I am. I'm a homeless vet. But if you had seen me before, knew what I was, and I was kind of sought after. I wasn't like exactly a nobody. And even now, I know some of you don't know the whole backstory and stuff, but I don't know if you guys know, Maurice was like a millionaire and stuff. And I was actually supposed to be working on multi-million-dollar corporations and things like that. That's what he was trying to pull me back into, and I left, for the what I felt was the safety of my children. I just wanted to make sure that there was no funny stuff going on. And, it has to do with priorities. And that's the reason I stayed here all this time after the divorce, despite, some of my friends tell me, gosh, it looks like they really have the deck, the cards stacked against you. And it is true. They do have it stacked against you because you're going against the system. The system expects you to behave a certain way. And when you don't behave the way the system wants you to behave, they go out of their way to try to punish you and make you an example. So, the point is, I did it. And I went through it knowing that they were going to do this, and I did it. And I'm at the end of that journey now, or I will be here very soon, because things are falling into place. My daughter's not fully grown. My son is old enough. He's a teenager. He's able to defend himself. I've been teaching him. I've had 10 years to teach him to grow up, even though he's still not grown up. But I'm confident that my son can take care of himself, even though he's still a teenager. Now, my daughter is fully grown, a legal adult, and things are ending. So, some people were wondering, they're like, hey, all the other van dwellers there, you've been in the van now, at least on YouTube, for how many years? I think 4 years officially on YouTube. I think we went online in 2016, I think is when we went live. February 2016, I think, or a little bit after that, when we went live. Not live, but active on YouTube. And that was because, well, I'm not going to get into the details, but those of you who are new, this channel was not supposed to be. The vlog that you see and stuff, this is not supposed to be what this channel is. The channel is called Living in a Van because I created a Facebook group called Living in a Van, and people were wondering how you monetize, how you make money. And as the group founder, you know, I like not just giving information without testing it. So I went ahead and researched how to form a YouTube channel, how to get it to the point where it's monetized and all that, and that's what you're seeing now. But long story short, it ended up being my main source of income for a while, so I stuck with it. And I brought it back even though I was under, and still am under, severe attacks by some psychopaths. Those of you who know, you know they are really, really something wrong with them, okay? But basically, I decided to come back even though it is a risk, you know, to be back. But I've come back because I need YouTube right now because it's going to be my primary source of income. And that means bringing the channel back up, getting it monetized. It may shift in its focus and stuff like that. But let's get back to the subject of children and stuff like that. Essentially, you do what you can to the best of your ability. And if the other parent has any decency at all, they don't go out of their way to cause trouble for you seeing your kids. Now, generally in an ugly, messy divorce, sometimes the other parent, it just depends on the people involved, but sometimes the other parent can be very, very aggressive and cause trouble. And in that case, it's going to be very difficult, and it was for me. You know, my ex-wife, for whatever reason, you know, initially started all sorts of trouble for me. And it made it very difficult. It cost me several job opportunities because I had some very good jobs that I was working. And because of the situation with my ex-wife continuing to press and stuff, it became an issue where I lost those opportunities. And now, you know, 10 years later, probably more than 10 years later, I would say about 6 or 7 years post-divorce, she started settling down, you know, in the sense that I think she started realizing that, you know, causing trouble and stuff wasn't really doing any good unless the kids had a talk with her. But basically, when she was hurting me, she was thinking she was hurting me. She was hurting the children because, you know, I'm their dad and they see me. So when you hurt the father, you're hurting the children. But long story short, the ex kind of eased off on it. So me getting visitation and stuff, it became a non-issue. And I think she started to realize that sending the kids with me on the weekend meant she had the free weekend. She could hang out with her new husband or whatever. You know, they could have a little bit of private time. So it kind of works out. So as far as her not wanting to give visitation or trying to stop visitation and all that, that stopped after the first 5-6 years. You know, she was very aggressive up to that point. And then I don't know if it's because by then my son was old enough to fight back, say stop. I don't know what happened exactly. I just know that suddenly she stopped. She stopped all the crazy stuff. So it's been quiet. You know, like I go and I get my kids, I drop them off. We don't communicate now other than, hey, I'm getting the kids here, and I don't even communicate through her now. I go through the kids and say, hey kids, you want to see me this weekend? They're old enough to decide if they want to see me. If they don't want to have visitation because they're visiting their cousin or whatever, no big deal. I'm not one of those parents that say, you must see me on my weekend. You know, I'm not like that. I think if the kids want to see me, let me know. Otherwise, I'll make other plans. You know, sometimes I miss some stuff and I get a little sad, but I don't blame them. You know, if they have a cousin or somebody they want to visit with instead of me on a certain weekend, or they have a special event that they're going out of town for, it's not a big deal. Okay, in the greater scheme of things, I think it's more important that when I get my kids, we actually do stuff that's fun, and you know that it's not a forced situation. You don't want to really force your kids to visit. Although sometimes That's where it gets kind of iffy and bad, because sometimes parents, when they separate, depending on their maturity level and their anger and how they handle and cope with situations, they sometimes try to turn the kids against the other parent. And then you got kids that don't want to visit because of whatever. Or maybe that parent did stuff that the kids don't want to see them for. I don't know. Everybody's situation is different. But I will tell you that just because you're living in a van or whatever, they can't deny visitation. Okay? Unless you're a drug head and doing really bad stuff, they cannot. You could be homeless and living in a shelter, and they still have to grant visitation. Now, you probably don't want to visit at the homeless shelter. You probably want to go to a park or something like that. Take a bus if you have to. But if you're living in a van, I just drive the car. The van converts to a regular van, and actually it's better than a regular van. It's got a TV, it's got a kitchen, it's got internet. They drive with me, they have Wi-Fi. And because my cost of living from being in a van was so low, I could afford to get hotel rooms. I got nice hotel rooms, and we would get, I don't know if you guys heard of like Groupon. Whoa, what just happened here? Wow, the sun suddenly came out, and I lit up. I became lightened. It's like blinded by the light. Yeah, that was weird. The sun actually came out, and I like glowed. And here we go again. We're glowing again. I'm gonna try to stop the glow. There. Maybe that'll stop the glow. The sun was actually making me glow. Would you believe that? Isn't that weird? So anyhow, long story short, it's possible. Oh man, I'm gonna have to. It's the sun, the angle of the sun hitting, and I'm not really glowing. It is possible to have somewhat normal visitation. It's a little bit messed up, and hopefully the kids will adapt to it. And we made the best of the situation. It's like my kids doing visitation. We would sometimes be in like St. Augustine, at the fort and things like that. Other times we would be in Orlando, or like I said, down in West Palm Beach, or up at Daytona or whatever. We were able to travel and do all sorts of crazy stuff. So Tim says I'm glowing from the sun, and now suddenly it's the sun's not shining on me, and I'm glowing. I don't know what the heck is going on. The sun is not shining. It wasn't the sun. I'm glowing. What the? I'm glowing. Okay, this is freaking me out. Or my camera, something's going on with the camera, but I thought it was the sun, but the sun's behind clouds now, and I was still glowing. Anyhow, I just wanted to tell y'all, stay blessed, be encouraged, know that nothing is random, even if it seems messed up. And if you're going through a divorce and stuff, just hang in there. It does get better with time. Try not to put your kids in the middle of it, and don't talk bad about the other parent. And understand that, the children are the byproduct of love, between you and the other parent. Hopefully they are the byproduct of love and not a oops. But even if they were, you kept them, which means you love them. So that's how it's handled, okay? As far as now, the RV is pretty much a house. It's got electricity, it's got water, it's got air conditioning, it's got Wi-Fi, it's got everything that a house has. And it's got even more, because where it's parked, we can have access to water, we can go hiking, there's trails, nature trails, there's all sorts of stuff that you could do that you wouldn't really have access to in a regular sticks and bricks house unless you live out in a wilderness. So it's in a lot of ways better, okay? Now, how long am I going to be in the RV? I'm estimating, let's see. If nothing weird happens, I'll be there at least another 4 months. And then there's going to be a major change, which I'm starting to work up towards letting you guys know, as long as things continue to progress and they fall into place. Right now, in the world that we live in, as you all know, you don't really know what's going to happen even next week. You can't really even plan that far ahead. You can have kind of a rough idea as to what your future is and what you want to do and work towards that, but it's hard to set a real deadline because the world is rapidly changing. There are things happening right now that people cannot even believe or predict, that would have if you had asked anyone a year ago, nobody would have predicted any of this weirdness going on right now, and all the anger that's currently going on. And I hope the country can heal as a whole. But I can tell you this: some people are wanting things to go back to normal. I hate to tell you, but this is normal now. This is the new normal. And I know some people don't want to believe me. This is your new normal. So you can choose to have a new normal where you hate other people because they don't see things the same way as you do, and you want to defy wearing masks and all this other stuff and prolong this whole situation. But this is the normal. This is how things are. And it was a path that was chosen by the people, everybody that's involved. Now, I'm making my own choices, my own decisions to change my path to where it should go. But I've been, obviously trying to stay in touch with God to make sure that I'm not just doing what I want, that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Because as many of you know, if you've been with the series at all, if you've been with me since the channel switched from how to live in a van to Denoy's living in a van survival vlog, showing you the good, the bad, and the ugly, basically, I am trying to follow my path, what was left for me by God. So the time has come for change as far as I know, but of course I'm continually listening and praying and talking to God and trying to make sure that I'm where I'm supposed to be and doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And, I couldn't really understand YouTube and why I ended up on here, but I do know that from the emails that I've had and the messaging and stuff and people contacting me to let me know, some people really do find this channel a lifeline, especially in a time when things are really scary. So I feel honored and blessed to be in a position where people are actually paying attention and they're finding useful information from this channel, which is why I brought the majority of the videos back, even though some of them I'm like, nobody's watching these. But they could be a lifeline for somebody. So we're going to continue to produce videos. I will rehash some of the old stuff because, the old videos are lost. They're all just, there's thousands of videos. There's like over 1,000 videos, maybe 2,000 videos or more. And they're all like, they were organized, but I disorganized them all. I disbanded and buried everything. But I brought it all back, one, to make money because, the YouTube's just paying me. You guys watching me right now is paying me, so that's really nice, and it's going to help me with my next step. But the next step may actually be helpful to a lot of you out there who are a little bit scared right now because you are thinking you may lose everything. And honestly, I don't want to try to scare you or anything, but you're probably right. I know it's not very comforting at all, but the comfort that you need to know is this, especially if you live in America or another developed country. You may have some avenues, you may have some resources, like way more resources than other people. And I'm going to share them with you as I deal with them and uncover them and work my way through them, just like I had to work with my way with living in a van and how to set up power systems and all that. Because when we started, I didn't really know all this stuff. I had to kind of just figure it out. And it was done through trial and error. And that's how we're going to go about doing this next phase. But this next phase has to do with people basically losing everything and trying to make it without losing everything. And so it's going to be a lot more talking, a lot more, I guess, philosophical in that sense. But hopefully it will contain some real information that people find useful for making their life better. A lifeline, if you will. So stay tuned. Until next time, I hope you all are staying safe, staying blessed. And if you're going through divorce, I really do feel for you. Or if you just went through divorce or are currently going through or have gone through, nobody really knows unless they've gone through it how bad it really is. Especially if you have children involved and you truly love the spouse that's no longer your life partner. So, if anything else, if you've watched this channel, then you've seen I've gotten remarried and everything, despite all this stuff, and me thinking I was never going to get remarried again. So, love is one of those things that's kind of hard to define and hard to predict. And your fate and your destiny in life is really unknown. But you, as long as you have faith and believe and keep moving and understand that change is inevitable, whether it be for better or for worse, but you have that thing called hope that keeps you moving forward, I will let you know that life is worth living. Even when it seems really bad, it's worth living. And hopefully soon on this channel, you're going to see kind of a transformation occur. At least that's my hope. And even if it's not, I'm so happy with the way things are going, because I didn't even think I would get this far or have the opportunity to be talking to you right now. So take care. God bless you all. Please stay safe. And I hope you enjoy this or like this haircut. Next thing we got to fix is the teeth. So take care, everybody. Bye-bye now.